it's me. I know I called you like...
My mom basically told me that I was gay, and it was a really great conversation. We were just chatting one day about life, and she asked me if I was dating anyone. And at the time, I was dating my very first boyfriend. And so in my head, I was thinking, okay, this is it. Like this, she's asking me, okay, this is it. And so she was like, oh, are you dating anyone? And I said, yes, actually, I am. And before I could follow that up with like, and his name is, she just goes, well, you can bring him over anytime you want. And that was it.
All right, bye, Mom.
I knew I wanted to be a therapist since I was about 5. So whenever my mom would take me to school, she would, ask me the very stereotypical, like, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I was always, I want to be a psychologist.
Oh, there I am, stuffing my face as usual, with fast food, no less.
I like to incorporate humor into my sessions. I think laughter is really, really important. Some folks, they get suspicious when it comes to humor, especially in session, because it can be used as an avoidance tactic or a coping mechanism. But I also think that humor, when used effectively, can help with healing and can help with processing difficult information, especially.
I don't think I started feeling like an adult until I was 30. Then I was like, oh, I feel like a grown-up. Sort of. I definitely like my hair better now.
My desire to help definitely came from a place of, on the surface, it came from a place of, I want to help people and I want to affect change and, and I'm really interested in human behavior. But I think underneath all of that, unbeknownst to me at the time, there was also a part of me that just wanted to know myself more and that wanted to work through my own struggles, especially in terms of identity. And I knew that the path to becoming a therapist would help me figure that out.
Oh, this comes with little sayings. I didn't know you didn't know that. It says, love your soul. No, love your soul.
I knew that I was staring more at like the leading man in a movie or something like that. And I didn't have language for it. I didn't know what it was. But I knew that it was there, and I also knew that it was something that I needed to hide. It was something that I told myself, like, I can't, share this with anyone. I work primarily with the LGBTQ population, not because that was necessarily the only population I wanted to work with. It just sort of naturally happened that way. Most of my clients are gay men. And most of the individuals that reach out to me want a clinician that can sort of relate to some of their experiences, and they also want a clinician that they don't have to sort of teach, right? So when a client comes in and they say like, so I bottomed last night, I'm not like, what's that? Like, tell me what, right? So they, a lot of these clients like to be able to just sort of like talk freely about stuff without having to pause and say, that's what this means and that's what that means. So, lots of folks come in with issues around depression, anxiety, trauma. So everyone comes in with sort of an idea of what's going on and what they want to talk about, but ultimately, all the conversations sort of end up in the same place, which is, how do you see yourself, and how do you want others to see you? Where have you been? What's your history like, and where do you want to go? And those conversations revolve a lot around, sense of self, sense of self-worth, and you can't talk about, your own self-worth without talking about identity. So those conversations typically come up the most for me in session.
This is my favorite part. And I care about people too. Not just my hair.
When talking about self-care, I like to ask the client, what does it look like for them? What does self-care mean to you? When you think of self-care, what comes up for you? What images come up for you? What thoughts come up for you? And then that's sort of how I tailor self-care practices to the client. And it can look, it can take many, many different forms, from, giving yourself a timeout, throughout the day, like 15 minutes to just sort of check out, or, again, take a walk. Meditating, it can be going to the gym, it can be something creative, writing, painting, sculpting, or it can be something as seemingly simple as taking your lunch break. That is, that's self-care. And it's shocking how many people don't take their lunch breaks. I'm not too sure when I would have started my own therapy had it not been for me wanting to become a therapist. I think therapy is so important, and it doesn't have to look the way it might look on TV, right? It doesn't have to be you laying down on a couch and sharing, painful experiences. Therapy can also be a place for you to ask questions. So I started my own therapy like 6 years ago, and it wasn't until my own therapy that I talked about how being a Latin male influences my experiences as being gay. And that was, again, really, really eye-opening, kind of relieving too, because it felt like, I can talk about this with someone that isn't going to be afraid of having this conversation. And it felt kind of great, and it helped me feel not so alone also. It also opened my eyes to the fact that intersectionality is so important, and that it plays a role in how I see the world and in how the world sees me.
All right. I'll see you Tuesday at 3. Okay, bye.
My clients serve as a constant reminder that we are resilient, that we are resourceful, that even when you're feeling at your lowest, that we're gonna be okay. And they remind me every day, of just like how strong they are, and that, that I can get through, whatever bad, crappy day that I have, that I will be just fine.